What's up, Internet? You're tuning in to a very cozy episode 17 of Nintendo Noise, Flip Screen Games' weekly Nintendo podcast. I am your host, Pete and Bessie, joined, as always, by my very good friends and co-hosts, Mr. Stephen Radford.
Hello.
And the mayor of Aiken himself, Mr. Chuy Huerta.
Hey, how's it going?
Hello, boys. We are deep in the cozy season. Thanksgiving, Black Friday, even Cyber Monday, all in the rear view. We're moving into the holiday season. It is the
1st of December.
It's the snuggliest time of the year. So we thought, what better way to celebrate this milestone than to talk about some of our favorite cozy games to snuggle up with a Nintendo Switch this holiday season. So, of course, that can mean different things to different people. So first, we'll start by establishing what is a cozy game, and then we'll take you through a list of some of our favorites that you can check out on that there Nintendo Switch. Okay, so but before we get into that, right, it's gonna be a meaty one. Of course, I have to remind you that this episode of Nintendo Noise is brought to you by our Patreon producers for the month of November for the very last time. Those folks are Andy Radford, Christian Oliveria, Christopher Valens, Wakahula, and Zaid Ida. Thank you all so much for your support over on patreon.com/flipscreengames. Y'all are the realest of the real, and we appreciate your support this fine holiday season. And if you want to get your name read alongside those illustrious folks, you have a chance to do it. Today's the last day to kick over. So by the time you listen to this, it may be too late to be in December.
I think you can still get in.
You can still sneak in. You can still sneak in, I think, on that first day, because that's when the charge comes through. So if you want to be a Patreon producer for the month of December, make sure you head over to the Patreon. That's, of course, patreon.com/flipscreengames. You can get a bunch of sweet goodies in addition to getting your name read on the air. You can also get access to our Patreon exclusive show, One More Thing, which is available at any level. On last week's show, we had Chuy on for the first time. We ended up talking for like 45 minutes after that. It may be the longest episode of One More Thing that we've ever done. So consider that one our holiday gift to you. Go check that out. And you can also get a bunch of other cool perks and goodies. Like you can get access to the archive of our Twitch streams, where every Wednesday and Thursday over on twitch.tv/flipscreengames, we are playing some video games for your enjoyment. Lately on Wednesdays, Steve's been doing solo streams of Shenmue. I know we are nearing the end of that game, somewhat.
We are very close to the end. Yeah, I've just got to do a little bit more of forklift driving. I'm going to do some of it off stream because I think it will get a little bit boring. But I reckon I've got one, maybe two streams left. And then it's going to go to a Patreon vote as to what the next game I stream is going to be.
So, if you want to cast your vote on what Steve's next game is on Wednesdays, or what games we might play on Thursday nights when we all play together, go join the Patreon. Great way to get involved, help us keep the mics on, and get some little bit of extra content, some extra goodies, all kinds of good stuff. But if you don't have any money to toss our way, that's totally fine. There are a bunch of other ways you can get involved with the show that won't cost you a nickel. So head over to flipscreen.games. That's our website where you can get links to every other place we are on the show. You can write into us at our email, questions@flipscreen.games. Find our social media. Come join our Discord. All of those are great ways for you to keep the conversation rolling with us after the show ends and to get your thoughts read on the air during our main topics or during our question block segment. So we'd love to hear from you. We'd love for you to come be a part of the show. However you choose to do that, that's good with me. So go do it in any of those fun ways. Flipscreen.games. Okay, so let's jump into this cozy game topic, right? Steve threw this one out. Chuy and I both liked it. We are all fans of cozy games, I would say. But I think that can mean different things to different folks. So Steve, since this was your idea, why don't you start off by explaining what a cozy game is to you?
Yeah, I guess I've got two kind of angles. One is like very much a nostalgia play. I find it so nice to kind of walk back into an old favorite, like revisit something that I know like the back of my hand. It's like I'm walking around an old town. I know I'm thinking something like a Skyrim, for example. I can go in, I've played it umpteenth times, and I'm going back in and I know exactly what I'm going to do and which order I'm going to do it. And I don't even need to think. It's just something I can just relax with. It's really, really nice. I think the other side is kind of what people mostly consider like a cozy game. Is something like a slice of life kind of thing. I can do like chores. I can just there's no real kind of time constraints or drama or stress. It's just something I can really kind of unwind with. I'm thinking something like an Animal Crossing or a Stardew Valley. Those are the two that really I think are at the top of my list of what I would consider a perfect cozy game for me. But I know Chuy's got like a bunch of different varieties and different genres of games on his list. So, Chuy, what's like a cozy game for you?
I think in general, just one that makes you just feel really good. Something that you can turn on and it just makes you smile all the way through. It's not really like a highly demanding game that really takes all your senses. It's something more that you can just like put on that's comfortable, like a cozy sweater like I'm wearing, which it's just like barely cold enough for me to put on before I'm sweating,
I
but
just
but
bought a
nice.
brand new hoodie, and it's so comfortable. It's like the softest material, and it's a PlayStation hoodie, and I took it off even though I
Yeah, you
want to be
can't wear that
cozy.
on
But I
here.
can't be
Yeah.
wearing that. I gotta wear the Game Boy shirt. Gotta wear the Game Boy shirt. But it's a good one.
Yeah,
Do you
no.
both have like that oversized one? You know, the one that's like 3 sizes too big for you, but you just like curl up in. I absolutely love. I have one that's just like it's like 8XL. It's like crazy size, but I just like it's ridiculous, but I absolutely adore it.
That's funny. I don't have that for a hoodie, but I have that for like sweatpants. Like I've got the pajama
Mm,
pants that are like way too
Nice.
big. Got a nice big old hole in the butt. Like super cozy.
that's how my PJs tend to be, just something that's just way too big for me. I'm just like, yep, this is a blanket built into my clothes right now. This is good. But yeah,
So
I guess in terms of that, like just anything you can just put on and be comfortable.
yeah, I think you two hit it right on the head. For me, it's either a game that is like fun and relaxing to snuggle up with, or a game that really gives
Yeah.
you those warm, fuzzy, nostalgic feelings. But I also have a couple games on my list that don't quite fall into either of those categories, but I think they still fit the vibe for me. Especially like going into November, December, I have a lot of fond memories of some of the like kind of choose your own adventure, like story driven narrative
Yeah.
style games.
Mhm.
Because I think there's something about them with this time of year that I just resonates with me. I really like, snuggling up under a blankie. Maybe you got your partner with you. Maybe you got a friend riding riding along for the ride, and you just get to just like talk about what decisions you're gonna make or argue about what decision got made and some of those kinds of things. I always think are a really fun time. So I've got a couple on my list that I think will fit in that category, which is not quite in either direction there, but I
But,
think
I think it is. It's like what Chu was saying. It's really just what makes you feel a specific way. I don't think you
sure.
can really define what a cozy game is. I mean, maybe Cozy Grove because they've used the word
It's
cozy
cheating.
in the title.
True. And I mean, to relate to that, like I consider a very cozy night just like dark and stormy and putting a scary movie on. I'm
Sure.
like, yeah, I'm all ready for that. That makes me feel good.
Yeah, so
Oh, that is nice. Yeah.
I feel like those games they fall under the category, even though if maybe they're not quite as wholesome as some of the other picks on our lists, but that's okay.
Mhm.
So, I mean, who wants to kick it off? Who wants to give their first cozy game? Steve, it was your idea. You You already threw out Cozy Grove. Should we start there?
I haven't actually played Cozy Grove yet, but I'm so interested to hear more about it. And I know it's on both Switch and Apple Arcade, and I keep meaning, because I have Apple Arcade still, and I keep meaning just to download it and try it, but I know I'll get hooked and want to play it on Switch instead.
I was wondering if it was a Game Pass game yet. I don't think so, but it is on Xbox as well. But yeah, that game is pretty wonderful. It's a life sim that is very much like Animal Crossing in the sense that it has a real-time clock. You do things. I will warn people that like it starts off kind of slow, like there isn't too much to do right at the beginning, but like give it a week or so, and as soon as you hit that week mark, it's just like so many things open up, and you're like, there's too much to do in this game now. But yeah, in that game, you're basically going to an island. It's full of like these ghosts that are all bears. They're kind of quirky bears, where some of them are like part tree, part seagull, part they're basically like bear-shaped bodies mixed with some other animal or sometimes an object like corn. I don't know.
The
It's
one
kind
who's
of
on
funny.
screen right now for the YouTube viewers looks like he's like some kind of like hiker or like pioneer or something.
Yeah, yeah. There's a bunch of different ones, but basically, like you're a scout and you are trying to help these spirits make their way through the afterlife, right? And so you kind of open up their stories and learn more about like what happened to them, why they feel the way they do, and it's a lot about, just that, those feelings of like coping with death, and not the most cozy thought for a lot of people, but they do it in a really nice way that makes you feel like, oh, this is a nice way to approach that subject and feel comfortable with it and everything. But meanwhile, while you're doing that, you're growing your campsite. You're basically building up your house a lot more. You're getting pets that you can raise, like deer and birds, and they recently added rabbits. All of their updates have been really huge with this one. And there's so much to collect, all this different clothing, this furniture. You can design your islands all over the place, like decorate them. It wasn't till the most recent update that they added like interior decorating, so now you can build up your house, and a lot like Animal Crossing in those ways. But in a lot of ways, there's also like the really cool life sim aspects that people miss. I know, Pete, you were talking about this before, where you're like, just pare down the characters, just do like a solid amount of characters and build them out. This definitely does that. Everybody gets the same ones, and they all, you'll find your favorites, but depending on what their storylines are and everything. But they're definitely built out, they're distinct, and they have different experiences that you can learn about. And yeah, it's a really nice game for sure. It's one that you can just sit down. And once again, it starts out slow, but once you hit like a week or so in, there's so much to do that you're just like, well, this is going to take a couple hours to play every day.
And that's a week like real time. Is a real time clock like Animal
Yeah.
Crossing?
Yeah, exactly. It's a real-time clock, just like Animal Crossing.
Cool. It's curious that you mention it's like a story that focuses on coping with death. Because another one that was on my list, Spiritfarer, is very much in kind of the same vein of that. It's about the Norse god of death, Charon, taking you like across in the ferry to from like the land of the living to the land of the dead, and you're kind of taking over that role. And you've got this boat, and you kind of do it up, and everyone that you meet knows you. They've all got their own backstory. They've all got their own needs and wants and desires, and you've kind of got to adhere to those. And it's really, really nice, and a really charming way of kind of telling a story with some absolutely gorgeous artwork. I mean, I know Cozy Grove looks great, but Spiritfarer, I think, looks like a moving graphic novel. It's so gorgeous. I don't know if you've seen it, Pete.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I've got it up for the kids right now, and just like the level of detail in the animation, like right now the main character is talking to somebody, and there's like a little cat behind them, like going through all these different cycles, playing with a ball. Like there's a level of depth to the animation that I feel like you don't always get in indie games that have that more hand-drawn style.
Yeah, it was really cool. And there's, I guess, like a level of Metroidvania in that as well, because as you unlock new things, you can go back to other islands and you can get to different areas you couldn't get to before. Like your hat does things like you can jump further and if you like unlock a specific skill. It's a really cool game. I had a good time with it. I never actually finished it. I need to go back, and it's one of those games that fell off my radar once something else came out. And that always seems to be the problem. Like I meant to pick up a bunch new cozy games, but then Animal Crossing kind of came along and sucked me back in. I'm on the turnip trail again this week, and keeping my fingers crossed for that big spike. And Happy Home Designer has really become one of those games I just dip into every day, and I'm just like, oh, I want to build the next house. I want to do the next facility and find out. And, the fact that I didn't even realize the facilities in there kind of do stuff. Like you go to the cafe and you can buy things from the menu. It's so cool. Like you can just speak to them and like buy food from them, which I had no idea was even going to happen. I thought they were just going to be entirely decorative. So it just adds all of these new elements. The more I play that game, the more I dig into it, the more I'm in love with it.
Yeah, same. I feel the same with that. Like, I mean, I already played a lot of Animal Crossing on a daily basis, but now more so with that update, I'm just like, oh, there's so many cool extra things that are just going on a daily basis. And so I feel the same. I want to pick up some other games, but Animal Crossing keeps calling me. And Spiritfarer is definitely one of those other games that I'm like, I have it downloaded, but I haven't clicked on it to play yet, and they keep adding cool things. I hear the updates keep adding things for it. Cozy Grove is another one like that where it keeps getting really cool big updates. So I don't know. I guess I just got to ignore the Animal Crossing update for a little bit and play these other ones.
Is that possible?
I don't know. I could say, but
that's like the exact
not.
reason I haven't gotten back to it. Is just like there are so many new games out right now, and like I haven't finished. I've started a lot of games that I haven't finished. I'm in the middle of 2 or so games. I bought 2 new games to try to play for Game of the Year, and it's so hard. It's so hard to keep up with everything right now.
Yeah.
But it's also like, what are you supposed to do, right? Like I think part of, especially playing video games, right? Because they're a little bit more time intensive than other hobbies, right? Like at a certain point you need to just cut your losses and accept that you can't play everything and you don't need to finish everything, and but that doesn't sit right with me.
See, when I stopped being a completionist, I think it really opened up more like my ability to go and play more games. Like, yes, I might not finish them, but a lot of the time I kind of get my taste of them and I'm like, I don't need to finish that,
So where I'm at with it is I gave up being a completionist for anything that's not a game that I'm like obsessed with, right? Like I platinumed like Ghost of Tsushima, like I platinumed Spider-Man a couple years ago, right? Or Miles Morales last this time last year, I guess. And that's all well and good, right? Like I've definitely like moved away from that as a thing of like I don't need to chase trophies or achievements. I don't whatever, right? I don't care. I'd rather play more games. But where that goes out the window for me is like what you're talking
online
about.
Games.
Well, like when it's like a game that I actually like though, right? Like if I start a game and it's not grabbing me, I don't feel any obligation to complete it. Like one of the games that comes to mind is like Creature in the Well was that like action pinball game, and I was like, oh, I'm really excited about this. I picked it up, I bounced off of it. It just wasn't for me. I wasn't getting what I thought I would get out of it, and that's fine, right? Because I feel like I got my taste, and that's all good. I've moved on, whatever, right? But like something like Deathloop that I still haven't finished, I have that like gnawing at the back of my head of like, there's still so much you haven't touched, and you love this game, and like I feel like I haven't really gotten my fill. I haven't seen everything. I haven't gotten enough of it to render that opinion, and like that's where it becomes a sticking point for me. And so many of like the indie games that I want to try end up becoming, I just don't get to it, and that's what I don't like.
I think indie games often for me, and especially cozy indie games, become that secondary game. Like I'll have that primary game that I'm playing at any one time. Like at the moment, the big game I'm playing at the moment that's consuming a bunch of my time is on Xbox. It's Forza Horizon 5, which I've spoken about at length on Flip Screen Games podcast. But I always have like a secondary game. And at the moment, that is Animal Crossing for me. Sometimes I'll dip into Disco, which I'm playing again, like I mentioned on Flip Screen Games podcast. They've done that update for Switch, so it doesn't crash anymore. And it's just nice to just have something to chip away at and just relax and wind down with, especially if like it's something like a shooter. Like I can imagine if I'm playing Deathloop, and especially with that story and having to concentrate and think about it. I think that's one of the things I just love about cozy games. It's like I can dip into Animal Crossing and I set the narrative, I set the story. I don't have to follow what other people are doing. And that's really the kind of game I like best as a cozy game.
See, it's funny. I definitely resonate with that, but I think I'm going to go in the opposite direction with one of my next picks, which is that kind of, like I said, right, that more story-driven, that more, like choose-your-own-adventure type game. That's a thing that really, really resonates with me, and I think it's something that, I think it works for me in the opposite direction with the cozy side of things, where it's like, I feel like a lot of pressure when it comes to some of those kinds of games. Like, not like, maybe pressure is the wrong word, but I think about like Stardew Valley, which like I put, probably over 100 hours into on 2 platforms, and I've never played the game like the quote unquote right way. And like, that's cool, but it's also like,
what's the right way to play that game?
I mean, like
what have people told you is the correct way to play that game?
I mean, like, there's stuff you're supposed to do, right? Like, you're supposed to build out the community center and advance
Not necessarily. I mean, you can go to the JoJo Mart if you want.
Sure. And I mean,
if
like,
you want to be a scumbag.
I did neither of those things. I was just like, I'm just trying to make my farm more efficient, trying to make more money, trying to build it out and have a cool design. And like, that was what I was focused on. And like, that's cool because I have that freedom and like, that's great. But there is also that part of me that's like, man, there's so much of this game I never really like appreciated. I never enjoyed.
Did you ever go to the desert?
I think I went there like I feel like I stopped playing shortly after that expansion or update.
Okay.
So like this thing, there's so many things I've never seen,
Tons of things you've never seen.
And they're still updating it, right? So it's like, sure, like there's something wrong with the fact.
Character cutscenes and things. Like I guess if you weren't really
those I got plenty
of.
I was interacting with people in the town. Like I did that. I got married. I had kids, all that stuff. So, it's not like I missed out. Like I had an experience with Stardew, and if I never touch it again, like that's okay. But I also do have that like kind of gnawing feeling of like, oh man, like there's a lot you missed out on. There's a lot of these systems you didn't really learn and you didn't go as far as you could have gone. So a game like my next pick, I think is one that I appreciate because you can kind of skirt around that because it's not about those things. It's about enjoying the narrative and the story. And for me, one of my favorite games in that genre is Life is Strange. Not on Switch yet, but coming to Switch very soon. So I'm going to say that it counts.
I think isn't it out like this week?
I think it got delayed until next year.
No, it's out in December. The True Colors one.
Oh, True Colors is okay. Well, I'm talking about the original, but True Colors is on this list too. Let's just say Life is Strange as a franchise. So that's Life is Strange Before the Storm, Life is Strange 2, which is not available on Switch yet, and won't be, and Life is Strange True Colors, which we'll maybe wait and see how that one runs on Switch. You might want to play that somewhere else. But I love this franchise. Big fan of everything about it, really. Like, I mean, I'm really a fan of like the aesthetic, the soundtrack, the vibe, all of that stuff, like the kind of presentation of it. But I think what really, really connected me, at least with like the first game and drew me in, was just the way that it develops characters is really strong, and it does a good job of or at least the original, I should say, does a really good job of like building up characters over the course of your adventure with them and kind of having, you learn more about certain characters, and like you might have a change of heart about, somebody that you thought you didn't like initially, right? Or that you realize that there are more layers to a character that you maybe thought, was a bad guy or something like that. And like that's something that I think these kinds of choose your own adventure story driven games are so fun to play with somebody else, and to either like compare notes and be like, oh, what did you do, and like how did this turn out for you, and where did you end up at the end of things. Like that's great. But also sitting down and experiencing it with somebody and seeing like, I'm interpreting this person's actions this way. How are you interpreting them? And, then like deciding how you're going to move forward and how you're going to treat one person versus another and all those kinds of things. And then like actually having the ability to like compare at the end of each episode, like, oh, like worldwide, most people made this choice and I made this other choice. Or like I can look at what my friends did and they all did this and I did that. And there's a real like fun element of multiplayer, even though it's not a multiplayer game, and that's something that I really, really do appreciate, and I feel like lends itself to that kind of that vibe that we're talking about, like trying to have that like nice like low-key relaxing experience. I dig that. And like Life is Strange is very much a game that you can take at your own pace. Like there's a lot of sections of the game that are just walking around in an environment and examining things and like looking for environmental storytelling, trying to find collectibles, those sorts of things that I think really, really like are perfect in that vibe. Unfortunately, every Life is Strange game also definitely gets heavy or dark at some point. So if that's not what you're looking for, your mileage may vary on how cozy some of them are episode to episode. But
I really like that sentiment of like something you can enjoy with somebody as well, because I think like with a lot of single player games specifically, it's like, a lot of them are pretty geared toward providing you with like gameplay and action and everything, but I think like storytelling is a big part of like what can engage other people who are kind of watching along as well too. And I'd say like I really enjoyed my time with Undertale. I played the entire game with like Jackie.
That's a fantastic call out. I also think that's like that game is great to play with somebody, but I also think playing it alone with all the lights off like is such a...
There is absolutely no way I consider that a cozy game. I stressed out so much trying to figure out and navigate that world without, especially when Pete tells me not to kill anyone, and I'm like, how the fuck do I get past this without killing them? Like, I don't think I can do it.
It's so like it's so lonely and isolating, and like that's not cozy, I guess. But
that's
I don't know.
The opposite of what I want.
I just love it though. Like I think of it as being a good game for this time of year. Like I know I think it originally came out in the summer, but like I played it in like January, and like it was like a very like I'm gonna turn all the lights off. It's just me and my computer, and like I don't know. There's something about that vibe that definitely appeals to me.
But I'll say like it just being able to enjoy a game with somebody too, that does a lot. And it's rare to find one that's like, a single player game that's got such a story that like keeps going without like the secondary person losing interest, where they're like, oh well, I'm not really doing anything on this little gameplay section. what interest do I have in that, but yeah, with Undertale specifically, there was just like a constant sense of excitement between the interactions when you're trying not to kill somebody, where you're just like, oh, how do you think we handle this? Like, how do we not
That's
kill
so
everybody?
interesting.
Yeah.
When it was playing that, it was Delta Room when Macaulay was around, and they just had zero interest in that game whatsoever. They looked at it and was just like, what the fuck is this? You're playing this black and white 4x3 game on some like massive 4K TV. Like, why are you doing this? Like, are you insane? That was like the reaction I got. Like, are you crazy?
Some of the reactions that Macaulay has to brilliant pieces of art make me so angry at them, and makes me really just like hate Zoomers, and I just feel like an old man.
But I think that is a reaction very much.
Just play it.
I don't know. I think a lot of people have that reaction. Do you remember I had that same reaction to Undertale?
Yeah, and guess what? You would have been wrong and
Yeah.
missed out.
I would have been wrong. It's one of my favorite games of all time. But you look at it at face value, you're like, what is that? Like you just see the screenshots because they don't want to give too much away in the screenshots either, and you're just like, this game looks goofy. Like, why? And I did not regret playing it one bit.
Definitely not.
Another game you mentioned, Stardew Valley. I think you need to play Littlewood. Littlewood is just like it takes out a lot of the stress of like the real-time clock, which I think Stardew Valley I play very differently in the sense of like, oh man, this is all about efficiency, trying to get my farm working properly, getting things as awesome as possible. But like
Get your
Littlewood,
sprinklers up.
yeah. Littlewood kind of takes that away with like reducing the amount of stress that you'll feel with the real-time clock. Like it's basically it works off stamina, but in a way that's like not stressful at all because you could just keep playing without ever passing out and everything. But
Yeah, because that was one of the things in Stardew, right? The stamina when you run out, you basically pass out, and the next day you have hardly any energy. But if you pass out and it's dark, you end up getting mugged, and you lose some money as well.
yeah,
And so there is that level of stress, and it's kind of annoying until the bath's open. You're just like, there's no way I can regain my stamina really unless I eat a bunch of the stuff I'm trying to grow for construction.
Yeah, but like Littlewood, it takes that away and also adds like a bunch of tools to really build out your place. You have complete control over how your world looks. It has an overworld editor. You can move around buildings, and then even that action is very interesting because all of your neighbors have like these preferences where they're all like, I want to live next to the market, but I don't want to live anywhere near this other spot. So
Yeah, it's like
find a
I
place
need to
before my
be
home.
within 6 squares of the shop, or but I want to live right next door to this other person. But then the other person also has requirements of I need to live next door to the sawmill, and it's just like great. So you two've got to be near the sawmill, but this other thing has to be at least 6 squares away from you. Otherwise, you're not going to be happy, and I'm not going to fulfill your request.
Yeah, there's like a puzzle element to it, and overall, it's really fun. You get a lot of you
I
can
loved that
control
game.
things that you can't control in Stardew Valley, and that's really nice.
So I want
I loved the like checklists in that as well. Like every house has a checklist and you go into it and it always gives you something to do. It was one of those things I wished Animal Crossing would let you do, and now you can redecorate other people's homes, so you do kind of get that. Yeah, they don't tell you what they want, but it very much is a similar kind of thing.
So I want to get a couple in from the listeners. This one comes from Zaid, one of our Patreon producers, who wrote in and said, gotta be some Mario 3D platforming. And with 4 great games to choose from, there's plenty of content for the winter to get through. That's an interesting one to me. Like, I think it's a good pick, but it's not necessarily one I would have immediately thought of when I was thinking of, like, games that are cozy. But, like, I think Mario definitely has that, you know, especially if you're playing one of the older ones, right? That pristine level of nostalgia, you know, and like it definitely gives you that warm fuzzy vibe.
That's I think where it mainly comes from is the nostalgia, right? Because I don't think, say, if you're playing Mario Odyssey for the first time, I think there is like a level of stress and a level of focus that you have to give it that would take it out of that cozy zone for me. But I could see the playing that game though with someone else would be really cool. Like if they're controlling Cappy, you could have like a really good time. That would be quite cool way to do it. I would say though, Mario Party is more cozy for me though, especially when I have friends and family over.
No,
it is, but not in like a chill out cozy way, but in a we can all come around and like shut ourselves in and lock the world out and just get like lost in this experience together.
I mean, I guess I don't know. I feel like it's fun.
Don't
it's
still
great.
start us from Pete because then he'll be absolutely irate with you.
I'm sorry. Who is cool with you stealing stars from them? Right? Like who likes that? Nobody. Right? Exactly. Try to make me out to be some kind of.
Let's do Peach's cake then on the stream, because on that one no one can go to Boo. There's no stealing stars. They can just plant piranha.
That's like the worst one though.
It is the worst one.
You know, it's like easily the worst.
I will say though, like I think back to the time when I played Mario Odyssey and I smiled through the entire game. Even if it
Absolutely.
was like
Oh
kind of
yeah.
stressful at points where you're like, "Oh man, I'm having trouble getting this moon. Who knows what to do?" But yeah, I just really enjoyed that game. And
Yeah,
to me, sometimes like a cozy game just needs to make you smile.
and that was very much my vibe with that game. Was just like it was such a delight. Like every time I played it, I had a big smile on my face, and um, not that there's no level of stress in the game, but like it's so bright and colorful and sunny and like
Oh yeah.
warm and
Mhm.
it's such a good vibe. Such a good vibe.
It was the outfits for me. Every time I would go in there, like you saw the Mario 64 outfit when you get to Peach's castle, and I freaked out because I had no idea it was coming. I
Yeah,
had
me
to go
neither.
have it spoiled for me, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is so cool!"
Yeah.
It was really really awesome to see. And like every world is so different from the previous one. Like the one with the hot lava and the food. Like, what is that world called? But the one I'm on about where it's
I
all about
do, but I can't
cooking
remember the
and you
name.
like put stuff in the pots and things. Oh, I loved that world so much. It was so fun.
Yeah, I should replay that game. This next one comes from Rocky, who wrote in and said, "For me, the games on Switch that I've been playing at the moment are my current cozy games: Animal Crossing New Horizons and Pokemon Shining Pearl." And I wanted to use this one as a jumping off point because one of the ones that I always come back to, especially when I'm in the mood for something cozy, is a classic Pokemon title. Um, that definitely is like the peak nostalgia chip for me, right? Is going back to Pokemon Blue, Yellow, even, Gens 2 and 3, to some degree. And Gen 4 is hitting that note for me right now. We talked about it last week, right? And like I know Chuy had kind of expressed, right, like that, like because you only played them once and it was so long ago that like it feels fresh for you. But I think for me, a big part of it is like getting to an area and being like, oh, right, yes, like I do remember this. And I remember being, I think I was maybe 15 or 16 when it came out. And like, I remember the launch day of Pokemon. Me and all my buddies walked to the mall and we all got our copies and we went back to my friend's house and sat in the basement. And I think it was cold out, and like just sat and played for hours. Right. And I remember like getting into competitive for the first time and doing my first like EV training where I had a notebook and was doing tally marks of how many fucking haunters I'd killed for
Yep.
special attack EVs on my Vaporeon and stuff like that, and definitely gives me a super warm nostalgia kind of feeling going
Yeah.
back and playing those old games and remembering a simpler time in my life.
I think that for me is another one of those like cozy check marks is playing the same game in the same room, but you're both playing different instances of it, right? So me and Macaulay are both playing Animal Crossing at the same time, and I just remember us both like finding new things for the first time or experiencing things, being like, "Oh, I just caught this for the first time. Have you seen this? Like how cool this is!" Like I played Stardew Valley in the same room as my ex, and we just had such a good time of like, um, building out our own different farms at the exact same time as before they added co-op to the game. But we stayed up to like 2-3 in the morning just obsessed with the game. And I can imagine it's a similar experience with Pokemon, especially if you're like catching new Pokemon. It's I just caught a shiny, or I just caught this, or I just caught that.
Yeah.
That experience would be really 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 fun.
Yeah, I mean that was like
Mhm.
during my childhood. My best friend growing up was a guy named Jimmy, and he and I loved Pokemon. We're such Pokemon heads, and that was like a thing we did all the time. Where we'd be sitting, we'd have a movie on or whatever, and we're both playing Pokemon. We'd be battling, we'd be trading, and it would be like, okay, cool, like. I need this Pokemon for my decks, and I need this one. All right, well, I'm gonna trade in this one, and you trade in that one, and then we'll clone them, and we'll trade, and like that was like our job. It was like a full-time gig.
Yeah, I had those experiences with both these games, honestly. Like my first Animal Crossing game, I started a town with my brother and my best friend, and every day we'd get back from school, And the first thing would just be like argument about who gets to log in first, because you get all of the things if you log in first. You're like, you can find the fossils, you can go shopping first before everything sells out. So it was definitely a big part of that made it really fun. And then Pokemon too, same thing. We were all just like getting into EV training and figuring out what Pokemon were in each version and going like, oh yeah, let's trade with each other and that sort of thing. So yeah, I get those experiences. That's a good time.
You know, for the longest time, when people in the Pokemon world, like I would hear them say EV training, and I thought they were specifically training the Pokemon EV and not not training
Same.
them, training their points up.
That's funny.
Yep.
This next one comes from another one of our Patreon supporters, Dill, who wrote in and said, "This time of year, I love playing rhythm games in bed with earphones. My favorite on Switch is easily Voez, I believe is how you pronounce it, Voez, which I've been playing since the console launched. It's so good, and they've supported it with free updates for a long time, so the song library is massive and varied." That's a good one. I also like that kind of game, like Tetris Effect. Definitely.
Oh, Tetris Effect is so good. Yeah,
It's
how is that not on our list yet?
It is now. It's such a vibe machine, man. The first time I played that game, I remember I turned all the lights off. I put on my 3D Pulse headphones and was playing it on Xbox, and I just had goosebumps over my whole
so
body, you know? And like, obviously there's a level of stress with Tetris and everything as well, but like, I don't know. I feel like if you're good at Tetris, like it is less about stress and it becomes more of like getting in that groove, and then you're just like in that flow state where you're just vibing and, you know, just knocking out bars while you listen to these sick vaporwave songs. It's so good. That game rules.
Yeah, I adore Tetris Effect. It's so good. I can't imagine how good that would look on an OLED Switch as well. I really need you to go and play it and find out how good that looks.
I'm about to buy this game again, aren't I? Well, I didn't buy it the first time, actually. So, you know what? They can have my money.
First time, yeah. I think I'm going to go check out Voez. It was on my radar, but I think it was one of the first few games that came out on the eShop, along with I can never remember the name, that magical geometry game, whatever the fuck it's called. And, like,
Jesus, I can see the box.
Yeah, right.
Doesn't matter.
And so I never picked it up because I think the library of music was like quite small, and I didn't know if it would be supported with updates. It's great to they've kept updating it. As everyone knows, I'm a massive fan of Dance Dance Revolution, or Dancing Stage Euromix as it's called here, and I would very much like to play a rhythm game at some point. I loved like Guitar Hero, R.I.P.
Oh, yeah.
Harmonix, and and I think Voez will probably kind of fill that niche for me at the moment.
Also, Dill followed up to their tweet and said, "I forgot to mention handheld all day, every day." And hell yeah.
When you're feeling cozy, I'm
handheld gaming, man. There's something about it. It's so intimate. Like, it makes it way more cozy, right? You just sit there, you got your little screen, just get all snuggled up in that little world. Yeah. You know, I love that.
There are so many games I'm just like, just bring it to Switch already so I can go lay in bed and play this all snuggled up.
For sure. So this next one comes from Olaf, a.k.a. Yarno, from the community, who wrote in and said, "There's only one answer, to be honest, Animal Crossing. But if there could be two answers, my second one would be 51 Clubhouse Classic games." See, now this, I feel like, feels like a better answer with what you were talking about with Mario Party, where, like, I could see, like, having a low-key day where you play, like, oh, let's play some Pai Sho, like, let's play some whatever.
Maybe a little bit of Mancala, yeah. And then Chuy comes along and ruins your day. I see how it is, yeah.
Well, I feel like it's same vibe, but less like there's less fuckery in that game, you know?
And the tanks are fun, like the slot car racing, the curling's awesome. I asked Olaf what his favorite game was and his go-to, and it's Yacht Dice, aka Yahtzee. And I'd never known how to play that until I played.
Do you guys call it Yacht Dice over there?
No. It's called Yacht Dice in the game because there's no, like, it's like.
No, I got it now. Copyright.
Yeah, it's
I was
rip-offs.
yeah.
Yeah.
I thought this was a weird British thing, and I was just like, you guys are you're just being difficult now. Yacht dice. That's what I'm going to find out, right? It's like, actually, Yahtzee is a classic British game that was originated by rich boat owners, only played on yachts. So we're getting near the end here. We could sit here rattling off Switch games for forever. But I wanted to get us the ability to name a couple others outside the realm of the Switch. We got a comment here from one of our Patreon producers, that Doc Guy, who is it's a good kind of transition into that. So Doc said, my comfy game isn't a Nintendo game or even on Switch. It's actually Elite Dangerous. I've always very, very much loved space. So if your sandbox is in a galactic environment, there's a typo there. So if your sandbox is in a galactic environment, it's my bread and butter. Like, I actually kitted out a spaceship just to fly around on the surface of a planet like a race car. That's a fun one. I feel like stuff like that is good for that, though. Like, a game where it is, like, very just, like, experiential, and, you know, like, I think of, like, something like Abzu or Journey or, you know, some of those kinds of games that are very, like, chill and just about kind of exploring an environment. Obviously, Elite Dangerous and something like, you know, maybe something like No Man's Sky or whatever that's, like, on a much grander scale, but similar kind of energy, for sure.
I liked Inside for that as well, but I didn't add it because of the stress levels it caused me when those dogs chased me.
Yeah, that game's fucking scary, right? I mean,
terrifying
I've never
at
played
times.
it, but
Yeah.
I played the other one from Play Dead. What is that? That's her name, right?
Limbo.
Limbo, yeah. And that game is terrifying. Watch this little boy just get eaten by, like, all these fucked up monsters. It's terrible.
He comes back.
He does. So, one of the ones from outside the Nintendo side of things that I wanted to give a shout out to is two games, actually. One of them is Until Dawn, which is in that same choose your own adventure like kind of vibe, so we don't need to go into too much detail about that.
I was going to bring that up. Like, I played that with my parents through PlayStation Share Play on the PS4. Do you remember that Share Play thing where you could, like, stream a game? You could, like, try it out for 60 minutes if it was hosted on someone else's console. It was a really strange, goofy system. And we had, like, a FaceTime call going, and we would, like, make the choices together, which was really fun. And that's, like, expanded onto the Dark Pictures anthology now, which
that's,
I
like,
really
built into
playing.
it now.
Yeah, it's really, really cool. But do not play those games with my dad, because he will end up shooting you in the face like he did to my character when I played the last one. And I was just like, what the fuck, Dad? You just killed my character, because I was telling him to make a specific choice. I was like, you've got to make this choice. You've got to make this choice. He either didn't press the button in time, or, like, you know, the quick time event things that come up.
Yeah.
Or he, like, made a different choice, and I was really annoyed. Really, really annoyed that my character got shot.
Love it.
I've played Until Dawn, I think, just twice. And the first time I played it with my best friend, and he had already experienced it before, but he was like, when you play, I want to come over and just watch. Like, I don't want to give input. I just want to see what choices you make to see what's different than my run. And I remember within the first, like, 15 minutes, he's like, this is already totally different. You did something different, and I had a way different thing happen. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And I made it through the whole game and killed none of the characters. And that was something that he was like, I can't believe you did that on your first try. That's nuts. How did you, like, manage to just guess all the right choices? And I just did. The second time I played it with my buddy Thompson, and it was for a YouTube channel we used to do, and we did, like, a Let's Play series of it, and we both picked, like, I'm gonna be these characters and you be these characters, and
yes.
And I swear to God, I don't think it was all of the characters, but we had made it almost to the end without killing anybody, and then in the last, like, 20 minutes, he killed almost every character by just fucking up and making bad choices. No. And it was so fucking funny. So those are a good time for that. And I think also, extend that to the Dark Pictures anthology, though your mileage may vary on those. I haven't played Little Hope or House of Ashes yet, but I don't know that any of them are as good as Until Dawn. So
I don't think they are. And likewise, that one that was the PlayStation PlayLink game that I can't remember the name
Selling
of.
Lies?
wasn't particularly great either.
I've
But
heard that Little Hope was better than Man of Medan, and I've heard some people say that House of Ashes is as good or better than Until Dawn. So
I'd like to. I'm gonna give them a try. I own a copy of them, and I keep meaning to play it.
yeah, I
with
have Little
Dad.
Hope, but I haven't gotten around to it yet. I got it for like $15-20 on Black Friday last year and never touched it.
Yeah, it's curious though. Like this is exactly the kind of scenario that Chuy was talking about. Like,
Yeah.
put a horror movie on, just watch it. There's very much kind of this, but you get to make the choices as well, which is really fun.
And then the last one I wanted to call out, and then I'll let you both get in your last pick, is A Way Out. That's Joseph Fares. Obviously, It Takes Two getting a lot of attention
We
this
need
year.
to play it.
I know we got to get around to it. Yeah, for sure. And that's similar. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. Same premise as Brothers as well, where it's a asynchronous co-op where like if you play together in the same room, there's a split screen and you have control of two characters and you can both go in different directions and do different things. You can do the same thing online, but obviously it's a little bit different. And yeah, I think
it's the same though, right? It shows you on the screen what the other person's doing at the same time. It like acts as if it's split screen.
Which is so cool. I think that as a thing is super novel and very unique. It's something that Joseph Fares and his studio, which I'm forgetting the name of right now, are really the only studio that do, and they nail it. And it's such a cool, unique thing. And I feel like it really. Like, I love co-op. I love couch co-op, and you don't get a lot of those games anymore, let alone ones that have a story, let alone ones that have a story that you have to play that way. Very, very cool, I think. Super novel, super fun.
Unraveled's another one that's like kind of that two-player couch co-op.
Although that's also a
EA
single-player game. Like, the original was just single-player.
Unraveled 2 is like is split, designed specifically for that.
Yeah.
Both EA games, right? They're both EA originals.
Yes, they are
published by EA.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so shout out to those games. I would love to see that come to Switch one day.
Me too.
All right. So, last picks.
Mine is Ooblets.
I still haven't played that.
I mean, it's not technically out yet. Their version, just as of this past Friday, 0.9. So it's not like officially launched. It's still like just, you can buy it and it's early access basically. But it combines Animal Crossing, Stardew Valley, and Pokemon, which are already 3 huge games on their own. But to have them all in one package is amazing. You farm up little ooblet creatures. They have dance battles against each other, and then the whole thing is just like get a bunch of money and decorate your place. It's great.
Awesome.
I love it.
Yeah.
I remember you and friend of the show, Chloe, both were like, you need to play this game. Like, this is 100%
Yeah, Chloe
your
was
vibe.
obsessed with that game. I remember that.
I'm gonna play it when it comes out properly.
Yeah,
for sure.
I mean, you can play it on Xbox now, right? Is that where you're playing it, Chuy?
That's where I've been playing it. Yeah.
Is it on Game Pass?
I don't think it is yet. No.
Makes sense.
They don't put game preview games on Game Pass, but it will probably come after it has an official release.
Very nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but that one, it's so good, and there's just so much to do in that game again that you can just fall into it and play for hours and hours and be like, why do I have a beard now?
Beautiful. All right. So
that's awesome.
Steve, your last pick?
Yeah, so my last one is also on Xbox. It's an Xbox exclusive at the moment, while it's on PC too. It's Moonglow Bay, which I've spoken about a few times on the Flip Screen Games podcast. And it's just this gorgeous voxel fishing game that has elements of everything I love. It's got that slice of life. You've got to collect recipes and go fishing and do up the town and talk to people and fulfill their requests. It's kind of everything I look for in like a cozy game.
I really love the art style.
Absolutely fantastic soundtrack.
It's such a dynamic
the name of the
looking
composer.
game.
The name of the composer escapes me. It's the same person that did Celeste's soundtrack, and it's amazing.
I can
It's-
never remember
it's-
their name, but obviously they're incredible.
Yeah. I don't remember either.
I'm gonna find it. Lena
I think
Rain.
it's Lena. Yeah.
Lena Rain. Yeah.
Incredible soundtrack, and it's a wonderful game. And they've updated it, and they've kept the updates coming, which has helped stabilize things and fix some of the issues I had with it, which is always good to see. It's a very small studio, so it's nice to see them giving the game the support that it needs as it grows.
Absolutely. All right, so I think this is a solid list. We got a lot of good recs for you there. If you have any cozy games that you feel like deserve the nod and we didn't make it on our list today, make sure you write in with them in all those ways I mentioned earlier. You can hit us up at questions@flipscreen.games. Come join the Discord where we have a thread for every weekly episode, or come get us on social at Flipscreen Games on Twitter. We throw up a thread every week, and that's where we got some of our submissions from the listeners today. So make sure you write in for next week's show with your thoughts on the topic or whatever we're going to be talking about next week. And yeah, I hope that you find a new cozy game to play this holiday season, because I know that I'm going to be looking for some fresh ones. So my current game that I'm working through, Far Cry 6, not very cozy. Oh my
God.
But you can hear me talk about that on Flip Screen Games. All right, so thank you guys for joining us. Go show your support however you can. Flipscreen.games. We got links to all the places we are all over the web. Thanks for joining us for this week's episode of Nintendo Noise. I've been Pete. He's been Chuy. He's been Steve. And we've been Nintendo Noise. See you next week, babies.